From November 2026, private companies can become digital ID providers. This is the most impactful phase of the digital ID rollout. You may not have been affected yet by digital ID, but in the near future, you might start noticing a change. My name's Reese from TechWin Cyber. I work in cybersecurity and talk about the impending dooms that affect all Australians and those worldwide. In this video, I will explain what the new digital ID phase means, how the providers are already using digital ID accreditations to perform age verification, how this new phase could potentially destroy anonymity online, and finally, how digital ID and age assurance authentication could be used as a form of censorship. Stick around to see how you'll be affected, and while you do, hit the sub and like button so more people can see this. Let's start with what's actually changing. As of 2025, 15 million Australians have a digital ID, specifically a myID account, and that is the government's own identity app. Of those 15 million accounts, they produced 80 million verifications last year, with 42 million happening in just the last 4 months. And yet, most of you probably don't feel impacted. You signed up for myID, you logged into MyGov, and you probably forgot about it. And the phased rollout approach that they're taking is designed exactly this way. The Australian government rolled this out in phases. Phase 1 was for government services. Phase 2 was for state and territory entities, but Phase 3 and 4 switch on the 30th of November in 2026. This means that private sectors, including banks, telcos, and social media platforms, can be digital ID providers. And that is when the rollout stops being invisible. Digital ID in Australia isn't a single thing. It's a framework called AGDIS, the Australian Government Digital ID System. And there are different accredited providers riding on top of this system. The government's own provider is myID, which you probably are familiar with. It does the full identity verification, your name, date of birth, address, and all of the document checks. But there are also private accredited providers. And the biggest one right now is called ConnectID. And ConnectID specifically does age assurance, using your bank account as the source of truth. It doesn't share your name or your date of birth. It just sends a yes or no signal answering the question, is this person over 16? Both myID and ConnectID are accredited under the same legal framework. And on the same day, they switch on for the private sector. They do different jobs, and I'll do my best to try not to conflate them in this video. So these providers already leading the pack are running right now, which leads me to point 2. To understand why social media platforms in particular are going to jump on digital ID, you have to understand what they're already dealing with. And I've talked about this before, but it's crucial that we set the scene, so I'm going to do it again. On the 10th of December 2025, Australia became the first country in the world to legally ban under 16s from social media. Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, you name it. If those platforms don't take reasonable steps to keep the under 16s off their service, they get hit with fines up to $49.5 million. In the first month alone, Meta removed 550,000 Australian accounts that they thought belonged to under 16s. And right now, in late March, start of April 2026, the eSafety Commissioner is investigating Meta, TikTok, Snap, and a bunch of other platforms for not doing enough. So even after they banned all of those different accounts, we still don't think, from the eSafety's perspective, that we're doing enough. To enforce age verification, platforms are running face scans, manual ID uploads, and they run these through typically third-party vendors to do the verification. And at Facebook scale or Meta scale, with 25 million Australians on either Facebook or Instagram, if you picture even 10 cents per face scan, that is a lot of money that they're spending to do these checks. And it's not a one-time check. They have to keep re-verifying and re-verifying because people are using things like VPN and other technologies to try to get around it. If you picture their situation, they are spending tens of millions of dollars complying with Australian law. They're also being investigated by our eSafety Commissioner for not doing enough of it. And in 7 months, the Australian government is going to hand them an Australian-backed government alternative. And that alternative is ConnectID. They are an Australian-owned digital identity exchange, the first non-government provider accredited under AGDIS. ConnectID is owned by Australian Payments Plus, which is the same company that runs FPOS, BPay, PayID, and New Payments Platform. This is basically the structure, the infrastructure, the rails that your debit card runs on. ConnectID is already integrated with Commonwealth Bank, NAB, and basically all the big four. This is actually how it works. You click a button that says verify with ConnectID, and that button takes you to your bank's app. You log in with your bank, and then your bank says that yes or no signal back to the website. This person is over 16. There's no name, no date of birth, no documents, just a yes or no. So it's different to digital ID, but it's still a verification. And this sounds absolutely crazy, right? Watch this. This is actually a demonstration video from the accredited digital ID provider ConnectID showing the exact flow that I just described. And it's already live. Snapchat selected ConnectID for age verification in November 2025, before the social media ban even came into force. And Telstra has been using ConnectID for SIM activation since early 2025. And in April 2026, Persona, one of the biggest identity verification platforms in the world, integrated with ConnectID, specifically to help platforms comply with Australian law. This is live. It is in production right now. ConnectID is just the dominant non-government provider. Honestly, as a non-government entity, I don't even know how they managed to get themselves in the door. In December 2026, it just opens the floodgates to other organizations being able to do this as well. So that's point 2, ConnectID using your bank for your age verification. So let's get to point 3. And this is where it gets a little bit serious because, and here's the thing, right? ConnectID is just one provider. The Australian government digital ID framework supports multiple kinds of providers doing completely different jobs. ConnectID does age assurance, myID does full identity verification. Both run on the same rails and both flip on for the private sector in November. And once you understand what that means, you might be able to see the picture that I'm painting. Today, you can hold a social media account that isn't linked to your real world identity. You pick a username, maybe a real name, maybe not, and the platform doesn't actually really know who you are. Tomorrow, that account is connected to a verification record, potentially linked to your full identity, your address, your driver's license, all your documents. Either way, somewhere in the chain, your account is connected to a real human being that the government can identify. I was looking for a comparison here, and I thought of someone like Banksy. And there's a reason that Banksy is one of the most famous artists alive. Nobody knows who he is. The anonymity is a part of the art that he produces. Imagine being Banksy, who had to verify his identity to post a photo of his work on Instagram. The link between his identity and his account could compromise the ability to remain anonymous. And I was thinking of some other examples that might be really common here. There could be online users that might be political dissidents criticizing the government from burner accounts, or people who are active in forums that want to remain anonymous because they might be adult or private. Every one of those people relies on the gap between their online presence and the real world identity. The Australian Digital ID framework by design could compromise this gap. If you post something from what you think is an anonymous account, the government's own accredited system could trace it back to your name, your address, your date of birth, everything that identifies who you are. And it doesn't mean someone is like sitting behind your computer watching you live. They collect this information and it's linked. And the link is now built into the architecture of the internet itself. This is what people mean when they say free expression is under attack. Not censorship in like the obvious sense. It's something quieter and something that you can't really see. It's the end of the assumption that you can speak or post online without your real world self being attached to it. And this doesn't feel like speculation. The infrastructure is being built to do this. Right now, myID is something that you log into government services with, and that's all. But the verifiable credential system the government is scoping right now, extending digital ID to your driver's license, your qualifications, your right to work, it turns myID into a wallet, a single place where every credential about you lives. And I made a video about digital wallets. You should go back and watch it because it really explains how a wallet, a digital wallet, can be used for control. Think about how you currently log into things online. You sign in with Google or sign in with Apple. Big tech companies own those rails, those limitations. And every time you click that button, you're handing the platform the OAuth token for one of the 3 providers, the American corporations. These are real buttons. You would have seen these online. Sign in with Google, sign in with Apple, sign in with Facebook. What if a 4th button comes in? Sign in with myID. You click it, your phone opens the myID app, you verify, and the platform gets confirmed and links back to your government identity. Your X account or Twitter account, your Reddit account, all of them sitting in your myID wallet, linked to you as a single verified human. And here is the scariest part, and I'm going to use some sort of technical terms here. When you authenticate and log into a website using your username and password, the platform determines if they want to let you log in. And during 2020 and 2024, we saw lots of famous accounts get banned. People actually tend to forget that Donald Trump was banned on Twitter when he was still the president of the United States. If you have to verify with your age or using myID as a new form of authentication, now the government can stop you from logging in. If they decided you said something on Twitter they didn't like, they could stop you from verifying your identity or your age at the login. Even if we never see myID at a login page, but instead you have to use your age verification through Connect ID, the government no longer has to try and pressure a multi-$100 million American social media company from banning you. They just need to pressure Connect ID or a similar platform to stop age verifying you. They've created a new way for the government to remove your anonymity and also control which platform they'll allow you to use. Like a flick of a switch, they'll be able to shut you off. That is my wild prediction, and it is only a prediction. To me, it is the logical extension of everything that the government has already announced. Verifiable credentials, the rental application pilots under the Consumer Data Rights System, anti-money laundering amendments allowing digital ID for know your customers at banks. These are all pieces, and I know they're complex topics and I just threw them all in there, but they're being assembled in public. They just haven't been clipped all together yet, and they're doing it with this phased rollout. So just to reiterate, this is how you could actually be affected by digital ID. You go to log into Instagram, and the platform is no longer running face scans of you anymore. They're not asking for your driver's license upload. It's redirecting you to Connect ID. You log into your bank, the bank tells Facebook or Meta that you are 16, and you get back in. You sign up for a new bank account. The bank doesn't process documents anymore. It asks for myID. You verify, and your full identity goes across. You apply for a rental property, myID. You set up an electrical account, myID. A new phone plan, the telco might use Connect ID for the age check and myID for the contract. Each step that used to involve documents being handled over, manual checks, individual identity processed at every single stage, are now going to be processed through the accredited identity exchanges. And every interaction that you do, every service that you sign up for, is logged against you as a person. So this isn't surveillance the way that people imagine surveillance in like 1984, where you're constantly being watched. It is the construction of an identity layer underneath the entire Australian internet. And once it is built, it does not go away. The internet has changed. It may not seem like it, but we are in the middle of an age of the internet where your biometrics will be asked for across all online platforms. So that is what November means in 2026. The rollout was designed to be quiet, and it will start becoming loud. You will start noticing. Private providers like Connect ID are already accredited and they're already running, but telcos, Snapchat, and the biggest identity platform in the world are live right now. Whether it's through Connect ID, myID, or some other provider that pops up in the next 12 months, the assumption that you can be anonymous online completely stops being true. This will become a way to authenticate online or stop authentication together. If you have the myID app or you've signed up with digital ID and you've barely used it, it is not a sign that you never will. It is the calm before the storm that comes in November. And here's the thing that I want to leave you with. Most stories like this assume that it's only the government driving this, and the government is driving it in our case. But there are companies who have been quietly pushing for this exact kind of system for years. Companies that benefit from age verification more than you would ever guess. And the story deserves its own video, so that's what I'm looking at doing next. If this video was useful, hit subscribe, drop a comment, tell me what you actually think. Should this be voluntary opt-in? Should we get rid of it at all? I'm genuinely curious about what you all think. You've been great in the comments recently. Please hit sub, please hit like. Thank you very much.